Hey, welcome back. Let's talk about output. We said that computer programming is all about taking something in, processing that input coming in, and then producing some kind of output. So let's concentrate on the output today. And let's start by identifying the most obvious forms of output, being physical objects like a page of paper being printed and being outputted literally by a printer, right? So when you are hitting print in your Word processor in MS Word or Google Docs or whatever you're using, the current state of the document that you're seeing on the screen is sort of put together and then sent to the printer. The printer takes it as input data and then produces some physical output, being the actual stuff printed on a sheet of paper. So that's kind of obvious, right? There's the ATM example. If you're going to a cash machine and you enter your PIN and your amount that you want to withdraw, and everything goes smooth, the output being produced is actually, well, the cash that you receive, right? So the output is actually the command to the cash dispenser to dispense the number of bills and the value that you've inputted, right? So that's the output there. What about a key card in a hotel? You wave it wirelessly over the lock there on your door. And then the output, there's some processing taking place, like the check if the card actually is the right one for the lock in front of you. And if that's the case, then the output is being produced an electrical signal that opens the door, right? And it closes the door after a couple of seconds, or it closes the lock at least after a couple of seconds. What about, I don't know, you're playing something, your favorite tune, or you're listening to your favorite podcast on your smart speaker, right? Or on your smartphone even. Then there's the audio, the actual sound waves being produced, the output. And my last example would be entering something into Google, right? Searching for a keyword on Google produces what kind of output? Well, a list of websites that sort of matches the input term, the keyword, the search term, the search phrase that you've entered. So thinking about how to break a complicated process down into kind of what goes in, what could be the processing taking place, and we haven't really talked about the processing yet, but we're going to do that in a later episode. So what goes in, what could be the processing taking place, what kind of checks need there be? For example, in the ATM example, well, obviously the amount of cash that you want to withdraw has to be actually as your balance on in your account, right? Otherwise, well, you can't really withdraw the money. So there's some kind of processing taking place, and then thinking about what's the output of the whole process there, of the whole thing taking place, of the whole actions, right? Input followed by processing followed by output. And if you start thinking like a programmer, getting into the mindset of these people who write programs, it's really all about breaking down what's the simplest possible thing that I can think of that goes in, what could be the processing taking place, and what goes out. And what are the conditions for different kinds of output? Right? For example, if I'm printing out from my MS Word or from Google Docs, there's an option, also a kind of input data, to print maybe in black and white only, or if I've got a color printer, to print in color. So that's also some kind of input being sent to the printer. There's the document itself and then some parameters like, okay, do I want to print it in black and white, or do I want to print it in color? And the printer takes all this information, takes the document, takes these parameters of how to print and if duplex printing or whatnot. So these are all kinds of things, data types and data points coming in. And the printer takes it into account and then produces the output, hopefully, that you want it to do. Okay? So again, thinking about how to break stuff that looks complicated if you just look at it from the outside, how to break that apart and break it apart into different parts that are then itself taking some kind of input, processing something and producing some kind of output. And then the output of one module, of one part, could be the input for the next module. That's all about it. Thinking about programming is really thinking about breaking things down, breaking a complicated process down into very simple steps. And in each step, you've got this input processing output taking place. So I actually challenge you, I invite you to look around in your daily life whenever you're interacting with some kind of electronic equipment, typing something on a keyboard or moving your mouse or typing on your smartphone or touching some keys on any kind of device in the real world. Think about what's the kind of data that's being produced there. What's the expected output of the action that I'm just taking right now? And that's how you start thinking like a programmer.